Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Your support really does make a huge difference. You'll find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org/contribute. Thank you so much.
Good morning for those of us here in Austin, and good day to everyone who's in another time zone. I'm Ann Lipscomb, and the hope for my Dharma talk is that it encourages practice for people. So I'm actually going to do several readings today as a Dharma talk, but I believe there'll be time for discussion afterward. And I wanted to dedicate any merit of this Dharma talk to our Dharma sister and spiritual friend, Carolyn Miles. Carolyn has been a long-term Sangha member, and she's been living with cancer for the past several years and is presently very sick. And so, excuse me. And so I chose these readings with Carolyn in mind, though it's certainly something all of us are impacted by. So I wanted to start with a short reading from Suzuki Roshi from Not Always So, which is a collection of his Dharma talks. And I was reminded of this segment by Joel, who was reminded of the segment by Stephanie Silers. And it's such a great practice. And if you have the book, I encourage you to explore this. It's the first Dharma talk in the book called Calmness of Mind. Even though you have pain in your legs, you can do it. Even though your practice is not good enough, you can do it. Your breathing will gradually vanish. You will gradually vanish, fading into emptiness. Inhaling without effort, you naturally come back to yourself with some form or color. Exhaling, you gradually fade into emptiness, empty white paper. That is shikantaza. The important point is your exhalation. Instead of trying to feel yourself as you inhale, fade into emptiness as you exhale. So the talk I'm going to offer is from Seeds for a Boundless Life, which is a collection of Dharma talks and sayings by Zenkei Blanche Hartman, who's one of our ancestors here that we chant in the mornings during the week. So the title for this talk, and I'm going to paraphrase this a bit, is Fearlessness, Thinking of Carolyn Miles. We have this gift of life, this opportunity to live this life that is given to us, and we don't know for how long. We don't know what happens next. But we do, therefore, want to be awake in this life, to actually be here, to be present, to be aware, and not to sleep through it. We want to really deeply consider what we can do to make the gift of this life a gift for all of those around us. Some time ago, I went to a poetry reading, and the poet, Kay Ryan, read her poem, The Niagara River. And let me read that poem for you. The Niagara River by Kay Ryan. As though the river were a floor, we position our tables and chairs upon it, eat, and have conversation. As it moves along, we notice, as calmly as though dining room paintings were being replaced, the changing scenes along the shore. We do know this is the Niagara River, but it is hard to remember what that means. When I heard it, I reacted to it physically, and the person next to me, whom I didn't know was Kay's partner of 30 years, said something to me at the intermission that she had noticed that I had had a physical reaction to Kay's poems, not just to this one, but to this one in particular. I said, yes, the Niagara River was really like a kick in the gut, because the day before yesterday, a very dear friend and Dharma heir, John King, informed me that he had a diagnosis of inoperable cancer. And Kay's partner told me, Kay wrote that poem when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I had to say that that's what's right in front of me, John's imminent death. And I think he was making of his death a gift to everyone. One of the great virtues of Buddhism is said to be generosity, or dana, giving. But the teaching is that a monk doesn't give material things because a monk is homeless and a mendicant. A monk gives fearlessness. A monk gives the Dharma, and a monk gives fearlessness. When I first read that, I said, oh, I don't know anything about fearlessness. How can I give fearlessness? I'm a monk and I don't know how to give fearlessness, so I need to study this business of fear and fearlessness. So far, as much as I've studied it, I don't think fearlessness means not ever experiencing fear, but I think it does mean something like not being cowed by it, not being overcome by fear, just noticing, yes, there's fear, and maybe turning toward it and actually breathing with it and feeling it, allowing it to arise and to subside, and not allowing it to chase us around, make us run off and hide or distract ourselves with foolish activity. We want to choose our life in the face of the certainty of our death. And I'd like to read another poem by Mary Oliver. And Mary Oliver passed away with lung cancer several years ago. And this poem is titled, The Fourth Sign of the Zodiac. Why should I have been surprised? Hunters walk the forest without a sound. The hunter strapped to his rifle, the fox on his feet of silk, the serpent on his empire of muscles, all move in a stillness, hungry, careful, intent. Just as the cancer entered the forest of my body without a sound. The question is, what will it be like after the last day? Will I float into the sky, or will I fray within the earth or a river, remembering nothing? how desperate I would be if I couldn't remember the sun rising, if I couldn't remember trees, rivers, if I couldn't even remember, beloved, your beloved name. I know you never intended to be in this world, but you're in it all the same. So why not get started immediately? I mean, belonging to it. There is so much to admire, to weep over, and to write music or poems about. Bless the feet that take you to and fro. Bless the eyes and the listening ears. Bless the tongue, the marvel of taste. Bless touching. You could live 100 years. It's happened, or not. I'm speaking from the fortunate platform of many years, none of which I think I ever wasted. Do you need a prod? Do you need a little darkness to get you going? Let me be as urgent as a knife then, and remind you of Keats, so single of purpose and thinking for a while he had a lifetime. Late yesterday afternoon, in the heat, all the fragile blue flowers in bloom in the shrubs in the yard next door had tumbled from the shrubs and lay wrinkled and fading in the grass. But this morning, the shrubs were full of blue flowers again. There wasn't a single one on the grass. How, I wondered, did they roll back up to the branches? That fiercely wanting, as we all do, just a little more of life. Oops, wrong book. Too many books. There's another quotation from the Mahabharata, the great Indian classic, where the sages ask, "Sir, of all the things in life, what is the most amazing?" And the sage answers, that a person, seeing others die all around him, never thinks that he will die. I must say that the first week after John told me, I just simply could not let it in. The grief was too much, so I wouldn't allow myself to even think about it. But the thing is not to deny it or to turn away from it, but to recognize it. Let the fact of the limited nature of our life be an encouragement to live it well, to live it in a way that benefits everyone, not to get caught up in fear and self-clinging and forget our connection with everything and everyone, but to live our life in a way that makes of it a gift for everyone. Whatever we have found to be beneficial to us, can we offer that to others? Whatever has given us great joy, can we find a way to share that with others? Can we take the gift of this life and spread it around to all beings? This, of course, is the Bodhisattva vow. Beings are numberless. I vow to awaken with them. Delusions are indistinguishable. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become it. This is the Bodhisattva vow. This is the ideal of Mahayana Buddhism, recognizing our total and complete interconnection and interdependence with everything that is, vowing to honor that by waking ourselves up for the benefit of all, sharing this life with all. I don't know anyone who exemplified that vow more than John did. He made his death a gift to everyone. He was scheduled to teach a class at the Zen Center on Dogen Zenji, but decided when he got his diagnosis about a week before the class was to begin, to teach a class on the Dharma of death, which to me is an extraordinarily courageous thing to do, to sit up there with his impending death and teach about the Dharma of death. He did a great job, together with another person who practiced with him. He taught by the way he responded to life. His total attention was on how to take care of everyone around him as he was dying. My questions for you are, what is the direction you want to go in this gift of life? What's the most important thing for you? How will you spend this precious life? And another poem that I think she's referencing with that precious life is another poem by Mary Oliver called Peonies. This morning, the green fists of peonies are getting ready to break my heart as the sun rises, as the sun strokes them with his old, buttery fingers. And they open, pools of lace, white and pink, and all day the black ants climb over them, boring their deep and mysterious holes into the curls, craving the sweet sap, taking it away to their dark, underground cities. And all day the shifty wind, as in a dance to the great wedding, the flowers bend their bright bodies and tip their fragrance into the air and rise, their red stems holding all that dampness and recklessness, gladly and lightly. And there it is again, beauty the brave, the exemplary, blazing open. Do you love this world? Do you cherish your humble and silky life? Do you adore the green grass with its terror beneath? Do you also hurry, half-dressed and barefoot into the garden, and softly and exclaiming of their dearness, fill your arms with the white and pink flowers, with their honeyed heaviness, their lush trembling, their eagerness to be wild and perfect for a moment before they are nothing forever. The han is a wooden block that we hit with a mallet, and here we hit together two pieces of wood, which makes a penetrating sound that calls us to the meditation hall or the zendo. This verse is often written on the han, and it's often chanted the last thing at night by the monks. May I respectfully remind you, great is the matter of birth and death. All is impermanent, quickly passing. Be awake each moment. Don't waste this life. For me, that is the essence of practice, to wake up and see how we are fully connected with everything, and we can be of benefit to everything and everyone around us. What is the way we want to live this life? What is hindering us from living this life in the way we want to live it? Do we get caught up in distractions? Do we get caught up in seeking temporary ways to sort of blot out whatever difficulties we have in life? Or do we turn toward difficulties and take care of them? Do we turn towards the fears and be with them with kindness and gentleness? Do we turn toward those who are having difficulty and see if there is a way we can help them? Do we turn toward ourselves when we are in difficulty and give ourselves encouragement and care? And one last poem. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending as all music does toward silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I had made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. So thank you very much for listening and being here. And we do have plenty of time for questions. Kim?
I'm curious if you've spent a lot of your life as a nurse practitioner working with older people. Have you been able to, in a non-Buddhist world, have you been able to introduce some of these ideas and attitudes toward death?
I think that I have. I was a hospice nurse for a long time before I was a nurse practitioner. And I will quote Zenkei Blanche Hartman again by saying, he taught by the way he responded to life. So I haven't ever, maybe a few times I've talked to people about awareness and attention and meditation in a sort of an offhand way. But generally, I just try to embody the teaching.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anne. And thank you for this very beautiful talk and for dedicating the merit to Carolyn. I just want to say I've read Blanche Hartman's book, and it didn't affect me in the same way as it did hearing it in your voice. It's that's you have a great gift for bringing words to life. I really love that. And that's really all I can say now.
Nelda.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your talk. As I sat here and I listened to it and I felt it go through my body, I was reminded that when someone dear passes, the truth of all of that comes to us so deeply because we've lost it in another. But as the poems and the things you read say, we don't think we're gonna die. We don't think about the gift we can be with our practice. And so I was reminded not only of the loved ones I've lost and will end up losing before I die, but also of my life and my gift that I could be to the world. I love the way all of that came into your talk. Thank you.
Joan.
Well, it was a beautiful talk. So fabulous the way you intertwined the poetry with the words and our love for Carolyn, what we're feeling for her. And I just feel like we have such an opportunity here with you having worked in hospice. And if there are things you've witnessed or things you've learned that you could share about this, I don't know if anything comes to mind.
You know, the first thing that comes to mind is every death is a good death. And that's something that I learned in hospice, and something that sort of flies in the face of a lot of what I've read, that she doesn't want to be questioning and arguing and unhappy at the end. That we have this idea that if my life is a good life and I'm a good person and my practice is strong enough, and my death will be peaceful and calm, and I won't be struggling. And I don't believe that after my work with people dying. That every death is a good death. That we do what we do, and that's the perfect way to be. That talking about, oh, if they'd only done this and they'd only done that, they would have had a good death, to me is not true. That everyone has a good death. So that's what I think.
What a gift that is, because these people are speaking from their personal fears. And you are speaking from what you've seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kim.
Would you extend that to say every life is a good life?
Yes, I would. Every day is a good day, as one of the ancestors said. Every day is a good day. I think that the poems speak to that. Every day is an opportunity. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosemary.
Thank you, Anne, so much. There were a few things from Mary Oliver. I loved her coaxing us to get on with it now that we are here. And the other piece that was, I think, from the fourth side or sign of Zodiac. And then
Uh-huh.
the other one was, are you running out and embracing the flowers and that kind of language is just so inviting to remember and be aware of the gifts of everything around us. I'm sitting in my apartment, but all of these things here are serving me and helping me to live my life. So whatever it is, I love her language of it's very sensual and inviting. And I think it's such a wonderful reminder that we have everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I love in that poem, the Peonies poem, about she's talking about these beautiful flowers and running out barefoot and embracing everything. But then there are the black ants, and they're drilling holes in the buds and taking away the sweet sap to their underground homes. That our practice includes everything.
Yes.
It's not just about happiness, though we all want to be happy. It includes everything. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have a question so much as just sort of a reaction to the talk. I never understood poetry before Appamada. And it was, to me, it was all about rhyming, and I can work well, it rhymes or it doesn't rhyme. But of course, 3 years at Appamata, we're almost immersed in poetry. And so now I have a deep appreciation for poetry. And what I appreciate about the talk is, for me, I want to ponder death, and I want to think about it, but it's difficult for me to sort of just read a book on death, because it doesn't always sink in. But then to hear a whole Dharma talk on poetry and intertwined with death, in this idea of thinking about it, I was moved, and it helps me really take I don't know how to say it, but um, maybe a deeper look at death and to understand it better. So I have an appreciation for that, and I can almost have like a whole intensive, one day sit with just poetry, and that theme, which you brought forth. But I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm glad that you've been introduced to poetry. That's fabulous. Lisa.
Well, so the more people spoke about how your voice and your selections reach them, the more I appreciated, yes, years of poetry at Appamata, but poetry sometimes it's the only way in. It's the only way out of my head, into my heart and my soul and my whole being. So that is what I would want too. When I'm ill, when I'm ailing, when I'm dying, it's like I would want to hear a voice such as yours speaking to the very experiences I would be having, but I couldn't express on my own. So every reading that you chose, I believe it expresses something for each of us, something ineffable, something very visceral and vulnerable that we really can't experience in any other way. I mean, poetry, it does something unique to our awareness. And yeah, I'm thinking of Carolyn. As I think of these poems now, I'm thinking of Carolyn, and I hope she gets to listen to your beautiful talk. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's interesting that I know that often in a group like this, after a talk or during a talk, I have a lot of questions and doubts and not such glowing things to say. So I invite that. I think that's sharing what your experience is, and that's part of fearlessness, I think. Because as somebody recently said to me, everything that you're experiencing, other people are too. And if you can bring your full self, you'll be helping other people and giving a gift to other people. So I know it's hard when you're in a group of people that are being very positive to be questioning and doubting, but I invite that. Now,
Then I'm gonna come forward fearlessly. I've had several talks with several, with different teachers about where in our practice, and this doesn't have to be answered, I love the day of a one-day intensive around the subject of death. But where in our practice does, and I don't like this moniker, I don't, but it's common, death with dignity fit? Because I agree with you, all deaths are deaths of dignity, and they're all good. There are different kinds of death. There's death by suicide. There's death by you choose the date and the time and when that's available. And there are those who say, I'm gonna ride this wave till life takes my last breath.
Yeah.
Now, for most of those options, we don't get to choose. We have no idea what's gonna face us. There are probably 1,000 possibilities and more. So you really can't plan for it. But I've always been interested in the notion of death with dignity if I'm faced with a terminal illness. And I think, I don't know, and again, for another talk, another time, an intensive, I don't know where that fits in our practice.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, it's a really good question. What does dignity mean? I mean, I just sort of think of it as calmness and
Oh, but I mean
acceptance.
the standard meaning of,
Right.
yeah.
Right, yeah. And I think that's a judgment that the people that are watching make. Not necessarily, I mean, we certainly have our own reactions to what we're doing. You know, my own reactions to my activity and thoughts. But coming back to my thinking about a good death, because it kind of corresponds, I think, to this idea of death with dignity, is that can be very blaming and shaming to people who are suffering in an obvious way at the end of their life.
Oh, I guess, yes, it can be, I'm sure. People make that choice for all kinds of reasons, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That includes blame, shame, guilt, fear.
Yeah.
So
So death with dignity in our culture's idea of what that means, I think and again, I go back to something I've said many times this morning. Our practice includes everything. It doesn't end at calmness, acceptance, peace. It includes suffering and questioning and pain. It includes everything.
I'm glad you said, and it includes everything. I'm glad you can share with us the experience of being a hospice nurse. And I appreciate that the topic has come up of this whole business of being what a good death is. I know it's a topic in our culture lately. The idea that if you do everything right, you'll have a good death. And the beautiful poems and the inquiries here, they're focused on death, they're focused on the experience of death. And what you mentioned was that we really led us kind of to the varieties of death. Because there are so many varieties of death. And we might hope for everyone we know to have death, a calm, peaceful death with dignity, but that's not always possible. So that kind of leads me in my mind to the impact of death on others, on friends and family and communities. And sometimes death is unexpected. Sometimes it's a shocking choice. Sometimes it's violent. Sometimes, it's quiet. It's a result of chronic illness. I know I'm getting kind of like dispersed here, but it leads me to so many other questions about, how we hold those difficult deaths. How, one who is dying, it's like I'm thinking, I would love to have those words, those poems available to me. I imagine myself, in hospice or something, and somebody's reading to me, and it seems kind of silly, but to me, that would be a sweet way to die. And might be sitting by my bedside, or maybe have a computer. So that's our little, what is that? That's delusional in a way. The reality is, a heartbroken mother. The reality can be the shock of having to deal with someone in an accident. Or the loss of a child. So I guess I'm trying in my own mind to integrate all those varieties, with the poems. It's really not necessary, but it really is. And everything belongs. And, I think there's poems for tragedies too. But that's not what we're focusing on right now. But I like, Nelda, your idea of an intensive, that talks again about death. Peg had one kind of like that. Anyhow, I'm very moved, Anne, by this. Your talks and your poems. Thank you so much. And it's so good to be here with others who are hearing it, in a similar way. It feels good.
Lisa, just one thing, because I want to give credit where credit's due. Someone online suggested that, and I just stole the idea, so.
Well, it's a good one, everybody.
All right.
And for some reason, I feel it's important to note that Lisa had a debilitating crash, the worst crash you could ever imagine, and somehow managed to hold on to life. And she's, for many years, lived a very full life. She was raised from the dead, I would say.
Yeah.
I always love hearing what Lisa has to say.
Yeah.
It's a good point, Jen. Yeah, and I felt so grateful because I had this practice at the time of this crazy accident. So even though I couldn't express it to others while I was in ICU, even while I was unconscious, I had this awareness that I had been taught, where I so much appreciated the interdependence of care that I was experiencing from, the bed that held me, the caregivers that did the work of changing my bedpan, changing my sheets, the doctors. It was so vast, and it made that experience so rich in a different way, that if I had not already had this practice, it wasn't just the doctors, who did their work. So yeah, thank you, Joan.
So I wanted to say too that the talk is, for me, about Blanche's question, what do you want to do with your life and how do you make your life a gift to others? that don't waste time. Yeah. I also have one announcement that I was reminded of this morning, that there are students that have been here with Appamada for a period of time, some undisclosed or undetermined period of time, that are asked if they would like to pursue a path of lay entrustment. So Lori Winnett and Joel Barna and Todd Bankler are all lay entrusted members of the Sangha. And I wanted to let everyone know that I have accepted that offer to take that training path. I wanted to be transparent about that so people would know it. So just so everyone knows. Yeah. All right. And if there's not any other questions or comments, we'll go ahead and finish.